Hi everyone. Today's topic in the product management concepts is release planning. Let's quickly go through and see how the release planning happens, or we can do it in our organizations, in our products, in the solutions which we are working upon. So what is the release planning? So the release planning is the one where we come up with a realistic scope within the available or the achievable targeted timelines, and which we would like to come up with the delivering the working valuable software or the solution, the application product, what we are currently working upon. Right? So the release plans should be achievable and should be realistic, and should be within the scope which we are planning to work upon, which we are about to deliver the end user's perspective. And we need to consider the logical grouping of the functionalities as well, and why to make it beneficial and useful to the customers. As we go to the examples of the release plans, we will discuss more about it. What is the logical grouping we are talking about? Okay, and who could be participants? Who could be taking part in the release planning? The business owners, the executive sponsors of the project or the product or the solution, and the product management folks, the product owners, the architects to define the scope or to define any design, architecture, implementation perspective. So that's the reason, or these are the participants will be involved actively in the release planning. And how frequently we might have to do the release planning, it is up to your organization, up to your product, up to your solution, how frequently you might want to discuss or revise, realign your release planning. Ideally, most commonly it is like once in a quarter, but it could be done as frequently as required as well from your own organization context. Let's quickly take a look at the one of the release plan example which we have. This is like a example coming from the email perspective, similar to that of a Gmail or similar to that of Outlook, for example, right? So they split it into various components like organizing email, managing email, calendar, and managing contacts. So that is what they define, or they split the modules into logical modules. Now, for the release one, they came up with all the basic functionality. Right. So in the search functionality, they mentioned search by keyword, the file the emails, move emails, and creating subfolders. And if you look at the manage email, right? See, create and send basic email, open basic email, right? So this is what the logical grouping which I mentioned in the previous slide, right? Then the same way, search the rich text format email and open rich text format email. Right? So again, this is another logical grouping which was done, right? So why this is required, why this is important, right? So let's suppose in the current release, we are talking about creating and sending a basic email, but at the same time, we are not implementing or we are not planning the opening the basic email or opening the RTF email until next release. Will it be any help for the end users? Just one way we are able to send, create and send the email, whereas the other way, the other receivers are not able to open and read or go through the email, right? So that's the reason we should be doing that logical grouping any point of time, right? The same way, if you look at the release 2, they mentioned sending HTML email and opening HTML email is done in the is planned to be done in the release 2, right? The same way, we should be for each and every module, for each and every functionality, we should start focusing on bringing the logical grouping for each and every release, right? So it might not be like everything to be done in the same release. It might not be possible or feasible any point of time, right? So any release, we should be seeing that what is the end-to-end valuable working solution which we will be able to deliver to the end user perspective. That's what we should start focusing as part of the release planning context. Okay, now moving ahead to the online shopping app example, which we are discussing in all these product management related concepts or the videos, right? So I took the same customer journey map stats, like the deciding adding the items to the cart, then placing the order, doing the payment and receiving the order, return or replace are complete. So I added one more step to log in to the application as well, log into the product or log into the mobile app or whatever the app we are planning to work, implement. Right? So right now the plan is to come up with the 3 releases. Right now we're in the month of March, so April, May, and June. Let's say June, we are trying to do a monthly release of our product to the market. So this is what the typical plan might look like. Again, just for reference, just to reiterate, this is all just a sample application, sample product, which we are trying to discuss throughout the videos, right? So this is how the initial draft release plan might look like, right? So from the login functionality, we are coming up with the create a login and activating the new account as part of the first release. Then the deciding of the access options for the end user, show items on the home page, or maybe let the customers choose the items based on the category wise, like electronics or clothing or the stores or whatever the footwear, right? What are the items, what are the categories we can plan. Again, this is just a plan to do in the release one. Right? The same way for the adding the items to the cart, the release one, we plan to do add items to the cart and remove items from cart, right? So again, we are doing a logical grouping here, right? Then the order and payment. So just to see here, we are seeing that the payment by credit card and payment by cash on delivery is what is done in the release one. Right? Then locate order, receive order, update, deliver order items. So the receive order. Again, just to go to release 3, if you look at the release 3 payment module, payment with gift card, right? So payment with gift card, we are planning to do, or we are considering in the release 3, which is planned to roll out in the month of June. And so the payment with credit card, gift card is planned to do in the release 3. At the same time, within the same release, we are planning to do payment with partial gift card versus partial other options, right? So let's suppose the order amount is 1,000 rupees. If we have a gift card worth of 500 rupees, right? So now the customer might not be able to place the order only if it is the option is a payment with gift card, right? So that's the reason we are including pay the partial amount with the gift card and the remaining amount with other available options. Maybe by that time, if you see the plan, we could be done with the credit card, cash on delivery, or the debit card or UPI payment mode. So right, then the customer would be having various options to do the remaining amount. Right. So this is how the initial release plan might be coming up. If we go back to personas, if we go back to the customer statements which we received or as part of the customer interviews, one of the problem statement rose the consumer as a problem statement defined is as a consumer, as a customer, she would like to choose which slot she wants to receive the order, right? So if we look at the order module, the current release plan is saying that schedule the order using available slots and reschedule the order for a different slot is currently planned for release 3, right? So during the release planning discussion, one of the participants could be raising this point or pinging it, highlight, hey, this is what we are trying to do as a differentiating factor from our product perspective. Then why we want our customers to wait until the 3rd release or the 3rd month to make this functionality available, right? Is there any possibility or feasibility to bring it to the previous release or the releases at the earliest possible? Or what is the reasoning behind planning or scheduling this for the 3rd release? Right. So the architects also will be there, the engineering folks, the leads, everyone will be there in the discussion. So they might bring their own version, their own perspectives, why they might want to do some POC to see how to fix the available slots, how to display it, and then how we can let the customers choose a preferred slot. Maybe we might have to do some POC, we might have to do some research analysis before making it release to the production, release to the customers. That could be the reason why we might have planned it in the third release. So all these pointers, all these discussion would be happening during the release planning, or whenever we are trying to come up with some relevant end-to-end logical scope for the release perspective, right? So that is what happens in the release planning discussions. Okay, so that's about the release planning. So what next? So now we are done with the release plans. For again, in the current example, we just took 3 releases. There could be a number of releases, a number of versions as we are moving towards the product release of multiple versions. So what's next? Once the release plan is finalized and confirmed, communicate the release plans to your stakeholders, whoever is taking part or whoever is not involved in the discussions, plus to your teams, the Scrum teams, Agile teams who have to actually implement this to the release, to the implementation, and to your customers as well. Right. So sometimes the companies will do an announcement stating that, hey, coming soon. So this new functionality or this new feature is coming. So as it is required, we can do the communication to our outside customer stakeholders as well. And then help the teams come up with the associated features and the user stories, and help the teams to work on the implementation of the same in the form of the integrated code and get it ready for release to the production. That is what happens as part of the release planning session. Hope you find this video or the topic useful. Thanks for taking your time. Have a nice day.